Lightfoot also said in a press release that the passage of Chicago Moves is a win for all Chicago residents struggling with transportation expenses by assisting Chicago residents with their expenses for gas and transit. The program will enable participants to save their resources for other critical expenses and focus on their own needs and goals. The 150,000 recipients of either the gas or public transit cards will be chosen in a lottery once all applications have been received, meaning that not everyone is guaranteed to receive the financial support. Though California gas prices remain the highest in the nation, financial relief is on the way for some state residents, as Newsom approved direct payments of $350 to $1,000 for many Californians, everybody. So that's good, and I hope President... So everybody, today the White House economic advisor defended the limited progress the Biden administration has had on tamping down inflation. She said we're starting to see signs that the actions that they're taking has having an effect on us. And she said that she's focused on bringing down inflation. But what do you guys think about this? Is President Biden actually doing all that it takes to send out stimulus payments and help out the American people? Tell me what you think in the comments. Now, we're starting to see signs that the actions they are taking is having an effect, is what the White House economic advisor said to many people. Now, during an interview with CNN, she said that she pointed to data from last month that employers are posting fewer job openings and the housing market is tapering off. She also stated, we're starting to see signs that our red-hot economy is starting to cool, and so we know that because of that strength, we're better positioned than most other countries for the Fed to achieve its goals. Data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, also released early this week, showed that annual inflation rose by 8.2% in September, a slower increase than the 8.3% rise in August. Economists have projected the pace of price increases would slow to 8.1%. Also reported last week on a monthly basis, overall consumer prices increased by 0.4% from August. When asked about the high prices of food Americans are paying, Roos pointed to the Inflation Reduction Act ability to lessen costs for Americans for prescription medicine, though she acknowledged it does nothing for food prices, but pushed on when it would start tampering and lowering inflation. Many parts of the bill will start to take effect next year, she said. Roos also spoke about the energy tax credits and the law as having one of the most immediate tangible impact in lowering costs. She stated there are no tax credits for energy to help people weatherize their homes and also bring down other forms of energy costs, so we are focused on helping it to make a transition to clean energy in a way that brings down energy costs for families. Transportation Secretary Peter Buttigieg also said this week that a recession in the next few months was possible but not inevitable, and argued that the Biden administration was doing everything it could to actually strengthen the foundations of the American economy. The Secretary's concession comes less than a week after Biden told CNN that the prospect of a slight recession was possible, but that he doesn't anticipate it. Last month, around 72% of economists polled by the National Association of Business Economics said they expected the next U.S. recession to begin by the middle of next year, if it has not done so already. Let's not forget about this. Early this week, the U.S. Government Accountability Office announced that at least 10 million Americans who qualified for the 2021 stimulus checks and the child tax credits have not yet received them. Although time hasn't run out for these people who have never received a stimulus check to get them, the deadline is approaching, and to receive stimulus funds, Americans are required to file a tax return, and also regardless of income level. That happens. In normal years, those earning under a certain threshold are not required to file, and for those with no permanent address or bank account or who don't have filed taxes, funds may be misdirected or not distributed at all. The Government Accountability Office said this week that individuals with little to no income and therefore are not required to pay taxes have until November 15 to complete a simplified tax return to get the payments. Taxpayers who also missed out on the April 15th deadline have until October 17. Millions of families actually missed out on the monthly child tax credits despite qualifying for the cash, and these families are still have time to file for payouts, and the child tax credit payments provided as much as $3,600 for families between June and December and help lift 4 million children out of poverty. So hopefully everyone can get their stimulus checks very, very fast. Tell me what you think in the comments down below.
I said when I ran, we're going to build a country from the bottom up and the middle out, not the top down. When the middle does well, the wealthy do very well. So this law is about more than rebuilding our infrastructure. It's about rebuilding the middle class, something John knows a lot about and talks a lot about. But let me tell you, I'm a proud Delawarean, but Pennsylvania is my native state. It's in my heart. I can't tell you how much it means to me to be part of rebuilding this beautiful state. My grandfather, Finnegan Scranton, would really be proud of me right now. No, I'm not joking, he would. By the way, he was an All-American football player, John, in Santa Clara. You know, I started my campaign for president here in Pittsburgh because there's no better place to talk about rebuilding the backbone of America, the middle class. After I accepted my party's nomination, Pittsburgh was my first major stop. And It's here that I laid out my vision for building a better America with better pay and dignity. Dignity for working people, people who built this country. My dad used to say everybody should be treated with dignity no matter where they're from. Because here's what I know. For most of the last century, we led the world by a significant margin because we invested in our people, we invested in ourselves, we invested in our land. But along the way, we stopped doing that. But not anymore. We're back on track. When you see these projects in your neighborhoods, cranes going up, shovels in the ground, I want you to feel the way I feel. Pride in what we can do when we work together.
Representative Valerie Longhurst, the state's House Majority Leader, said the hope for residents to receive the money before June 30th. So this is nice news for Delaware residents. And also, people in Maine can now check the status of their $850 relief payments using a new website from the Maine Revenue Services. The checks, which will be paid for with $730 million from an estate surplus, were approved by the Maine legislature this past season as a one-time payment to help with the rising cost of inflation. The Department of Administrative and Financial Services says it mailed initial $5,000 relief checks via the U.S. Postal Service. Those are expected to arrive in mailboxes as early as this week. The department will then issue around 200,000 checks per week after that, with the vast majority of qualifying Mainers who have already filed their 2021 Maine tax return expected to receive their check by mid-July. Eligible Mainers should expect to see their checks arrive this week, and the state says it will be based on when your 2021 tax return was received. And while the tax deadline has passed, it's not too late to file a return. Mainers have until October 31st. The relief payments are also available to retirees and to those who receive Social Security and SSI, so long as they meet the eligibility criteria. With widespread student loan forgiveness has not yet become a reality, some U.S. borrowers have already received some debt relief. Roughly 1.3 million borrowers have seen $25 billion in student debt forgiveness since President Biden took office. The Department of Education announced it will discharge the outstanding federal student loans of former college students. In total, $5.8 billion in loans will be canceled for 500,000 borrowers, making it the largest single loan discharge by the Education Department. The Federal Reserve's analysis found forgiving $10,000 per borrower will result in roughly 11 million borrowers and slightly more than 30%, having their entire balance eliminated. If the Biden administration were to move forward under this plan, an estimated $321 billion in federal student loans will be forgiven. The Education Department has also confirmed it is working on new regulations that will permanently improve a variety of the existing student loan relief programs, significantly reduce monthly payments, and provide greater protections for students and taxpayers. Now, new stimulus payments have been approved, but this is a new type of stimulus check that will go out to a targeted group of Americans. These checks will be worth $350, so watch until the end to see how to receive this. Democratic governor nominee is proposing $350 checks to help people in Ohio manage the rising cost of gas, groceries, and other essentials. But with some economists pointing to federal stimulus as one of the drivers of inflation, her plan may not sit well with them. The plan would take the $3 billion in America Rescue Plan dollars earmarked for Ohio and hand it out to residents directly. Checks would go to the same people who received federal stimulus checks, $350 per individual or $700 a couple. And she argued that these rising costs are especially difficult for those living on fixed incomes. And while inflation remains high, many of those who oppose federal stimulus checks